Hi, PARB members, and welcome to the PARB database training. I'm Keith Pirtle. I'm your program manager and your trainer for today. I'm going to go over kind of just a brief overview of the database itself. We also have a user's manual that I can email you. We also have a longer video. And of course, you can always ask questions of me or of our other staff. Shara can certainly help you in our main office, Christina for Oklahoma County, Malena and Tulsa County. We're all available to help you anytime with any of this stuff. Please reach out. That's what we're here for. That's why we exist, is to support your efforts. So basically, conceptually, let me talk about what the whole purpose of the database is. All it is a way to track your recommendation and to make writing your recommendation and tracking it over time and collecting data easier. Since the 80s, we've all used the old yellow recommendation form. I'm sure everybody is familiar with. Boards still use those sometimes. Individuals will fill those out and then they'll hand them to a chair or someone else on their board that will actually enter them into the data system from there. Sometimes people like to fill these out at the meeting, go home to their desktop computer, and then enter the recommendation in that way. It doesn't really matter, whatever works in your process. I think it's really great when as many people as possible can enter their own cases, because that just spreads out the work. Not to mention, I think once you start using it and you start typing and you start not having to rewrite all the stuff at the top of the sheet, I think you'll prefer that over handwriting your recommendation. But not everybody is that comfortable with a computer or even has a computer at home, and some of you don't even have emails. So I understand that you do need to continue to fill out the sheet and then hand it to someone else to start entering it into the system. I must warn you, now that we're going kind of on year 3 of this system, all boards are very much required at this point to enter their case recommendations into the database. So if you're not doing that as a board, and there's still a couple that aren't, that information is not going to be tracked and in our annual report, and it's just not collected. It's your regular recommendations to the judge, but it's not going any further than that. And again, I think once people start using this system, everybody is pretty much really enjoyed having it. But that's all the system is. Basically, it tracks our membership, but it also tracks the recommendations. And once I go into it a little bit more, you'll see some of those advantages. So when you become a new member, besides getting a letter from me and Christina saying welcome and let you know who your chair is and who your judge is, you'll also receive an automatically generated email when your information is entered into the data system. I'm going to try to share that. Actually, it's going to look a little more like that. So this, you should receive that email. It says basically, thanks for registering. You've successfully registered. Please click this link and enter these credentials. So the first is your email. So it's the email that you use to, apply to be a PARB member. And the password we create for you. If you can't find that email, because this email was generated when you first became a member, it may have gone to your junk. You may have accidentally deleted it. For whatever reason, if you don't have that email and do not know what your username and password is, just reach out to one of us and we can certainly help with that. So once you do, get that email and you want to log in for the first time, there's the, you may not have seen that. That's the what the email looked like. Then I'm going to click on this other link. Hopefully you're seeing that. That'll take you straight to, make sure you're seeing what I want you to see. It'll take you straight to the database. And then you'll click log in. But let me log out so you can see. That's what it's going to look like. It's kind of mainly a white screen with a blue thing on the side. Click login. Type in your username and password. And then it'll take you to the main screen. You may have to click PARB on the left side. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use. And it'll take you only to your board. So if your board has entered several cases, you'll see several cases at this point. Since I'm recording this, I don't want to show any actual cases. So I just clicked on the admin one. But basically, so to enter a new case, you click new case. It's going to be fickle since I'm recording this. Programs are cases. So that's what it looks like when you see all the different cases. I'll click on new case. Select a board. Yours should pretty much come up automatically. And click on corporate office for me, which is a fake one. And then anytime you see these little red dashes, that means you have to fill in that field. So you do have to list your board. You do have to list your county. You do have to put in the JD number. It's going to make me do a railway. So I'm going to do a new case. I'm going to do Canadian County. So click Canadian as your district board, and then county. So again, that's pretty straightforward. JD number, you can change that to JDL. If you look at delinquent cases, which most of you do not, that's going to, so click on JD number and then enter a 8-digit JD number. As you know, the first number is going to be the year. So a case says like 22-1, that means that case was 2022-0001. It was the first case of 2022. So we'll go 2022 and say, let's say it was case number 12, 0012. Now, part of the reason for this training is I want to talk about what you should enter and what you shouldn't. Every board's a little bit different. Every board traditionally kind of maybe captures certain information every time, and some boards don't. For example, Oklahoma County, they always list the child welfare worker's supervisor's name and their phone number. The reason they do that is because they call the workers in between meetings once they're assigned cases, which most boards aren't. Just Tulsa and Oklahoma County are assigned cases, Cleveland County as well. But they'll call the worker in between meetings. Sometimes they can't reach the worker, so they'll call the supervisor. That's why they write down the supervisor's name and phone number, so they'll have that information to reach them. If that's not something your board does, there's no sense in capturing that. But anywhere that's got a red mark, you have to you have to write down that information. So review of, that'd be, what case? So we'll call it the Smith case. K number, if you're not familiar, that's the distinctive child welfare number that any child welfare document is going to have that on there, like the updated ISP or any show cause report, any reports to court. Pretty much anything that child welfare produces is going to have that KK number, because that's what they use as an identifying number. Because if you can imagine, there's 77 JD 2201 cases across the state, because every county uses that same system, but there's only one of that KK number. So we really do want to try to capture that so we can cross-reference capture data information. So I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notes, you do not need to fill those in. Sometimes people will put in some notes like there's another case file that has the same family in it. Maybe there's a case open, JD 2211 is another sibling within the same family, so they might type some notes or something like that. Then you just click next. If you notice that the honorable judge has a little red tick by his name, so you have to put the judge's name in. So we'll call it Judge Jones. Next court date. You do not have to put this in, but a lot of people want to know when is their next court date. That certainly helps. Any information you capture is going to be on the sheet once it's printed and be made available. You can also sort by those fields. So if you want to, like, once you've entered all your cases, know, okay, what all cases are going to be heard in July 12th. Well, then you can sort by that if you enter that information. If you didn't enter that information, you can't sort by that. With the database, we have these little kind of drop down menu calendar things, which can be a little bit annoying, but you can kind of cheat a little bit just by typing in the number and it'll get there for you. So say next court date is 07 and then do a /12/2023. There, then the calendar took you to that, and then you can just click on that number 12 and it gives you that date. Okay, so let's say I don't know who the ADA is, or I don't really care. I'm going to skip it. So the review date, well, that's the date that you're doing the review today, doing it on June 12th, 2023. The next review date, well, that's the next time the PARB is going to have its meeting. Well, we're meeting in 2 months on August 12th. So I'll do 08/12/2023. All right, that's a Saturday. That's a hard working board. Click that. Now, again, you can sort by next review date. If you don't want to capture that information, fine. But you know, a lot of people like to do that. Then select reviewer. If you are a member of that particular board, which you would be if you're in the database, then when you click reviewer, your name is going to be in there in the drop down. If it's not, that means I don't have you in there correctly, or something went wrong and we need to fix it. So just let me know. So then click next. Current DHS worker, again, not a required field, but sure is helpful to have that worker. That way you know who to ask questions to. You can bring it up to the supervisor that's maybe at your meeting. Good to know. If you want to write down their phone number because you call workers, great. If you don't, that's fine too. And maybe the contact date of when you contact them. Most people don't, most boards don't write that down. Most do write down who the current worker is because that really does help. No need to write down a supervisor unless you want to. A lot of times you don't even know who the foster parent is. That's just there in case you are getting information from a foster parent and you want to follow up with that information. Again, we created a whole bunch of fields so that people could, you know, could look at that information because different boards collect different things. If we didn't create the field, then it wouldn't be in the database. But that doesn't mean everybody needs to fill that in if you don't, if your board doesn't use it. So then click next. Mom's attorney, that's pretty important to have every time, at least when you have it. Dad's attorney, obviously there can be multiple fathers. You could list other attorney because that could be, you know, a multiple mother. Would it be a multiple mother? Guess not. If they're a tribal CASA, put the CASA worker's name if there is one and you know who they are. If they are part of a tribe, there's a drop down menu for the tribe and the tribal worker. If you've got, say, you're in say a county or like Cherokee County, and you work with the tribe a lot, then you might want to write down that worker so you can follow up with them. Click next, and then this is the child page. You can see at the top, it kind of shows you which page you're on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're on page 6 with the kids. So you have to enter the name of the child. So John Doe. You don't have to put gender, but it's nice. You do have to put in the birth date, so be sure and collect that and find it. So let's go 08 12 2018. Whoops. 08/12/201. Click on that. List the child's attorney if they have a placement type. That's a drop down menu. Certainly is nice to have that. That tells you a lot when you're reviewing a case. Is it a kinship placement? Is it a group home, inpatient, whatever? You certainly want to put that in there if you can. Again, you may not have that, so you can skip it if you don't have it. Data removal, that's the date when they were pulled out of child welfare or pulled out of the home by child welfare and became, kind of in child welfare custody at that point. So that's really when the case first started. So look for that because that's important because it tells you a lot if they've been out for 2 weeks or they've been out for 2 years. That tells you out of the home. So we put in data removal. So we'll put 5/6/2019. Okay. Placement type, we'll say they're in a traditional foster care. Are they ICWA? Yes, no. If you want to close the case, you can certainly type it in there or any notes. Now, if you need to add a child, click add a child. It pulls up, so there's already child 1 there and then child 2. So we said John Doe, so we'll do Jane Doe, sister. She was born in 03/08/2021. She's so she's in traditional foster care as well. She was removed. Date, the next. Now you're at your findings. So we broke it down by findings and recommendations. A lot of boards like to kind of write down some like almost observations while they're doing their review. Dad finished his domestic violence assessment. That's not a recommendation, that's an observation, right? So sometimes people write that down, the significant things that happen that they think of. And then the recommendation, it has a red mark. You have to fill that out. You do not have to put the findings in, but you do have to do a board recommendation. PARB recommends so you get spell check with this. You're gonna get spell check when you handwrite things. PARB recommends Dad have supervised visits with Jane and Jane's grandma until Dad can straight control of his anger, something like that. Well, now these other things, you can certainly mark these again. When we added stuff to the database, it's basically because someone asked us to. Doesn't mean everybody wanted to use it, but if one board's using it, another board might actually benefit from it. So recommendations for permanency. So it's just a drop down. Reunite, guardianship, termination, adoption. Well, We're thinking they should reunite. But really, no, we just don't really have an opinion on that. So we're gonna leave it blank. Siblings placed together. That's a good question to ask, and it's something worth marking. So it's like, yes, they are. Jane and John are together, which is great. Previous deprived adjudications in the last 3 years. Again, you don't have to mark it. You may not know, but one board in particular really likes to track that, so they had us put that in there. I think children are safe in the current placement. Again, kind of a trigger. You don't have to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next. Now, categories. This is new. You've never done it before. There's no categories on the yellow sheets. Basically, we want to know what categories your recommendations fall in once you've already written them. So I wrote the recommendation that about visitation for dad with Jane, his daughter Jane, be supervised. So let's figure out what categories mine fit in. Well, it wasn't placement, it wasn't parental rights and support, parental visitation, it was. I'm going to click that. Tribal supports, healthcare services, individual service plan, equal findings, reasonable efforts, no. Sibling visitation, no. Education, no. So really, that's the only one. So I'm going to click next. And there is in the PARB database training manual, there is in the back a list of the recommendations categories that you can kind of read. So let's look at parental visitation. All right. So the assignment of the parental visitation category should be chosen if the recommendation includes anything related to visitation between a parent and a child. This one does. This could be scheduling or establishing a new visitation schedule. It also include times in which the PARB recommends that visits between parents and children stop or need to be delayed. We suggested that they take place, but that they just be supervised. Examples include therapeutic visitation, supervised visitation. That's what I said. So you get the sense, and they all those categories have a little explanation like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. We just think that'll be helpful to figure out what categories these fall under. You can certainly mark more than one. So let's say that it was not only visitation we were talking about. Oh, we're talking about some community resources we thought would be helpful too. So we'll click that and click next. Now here's your kind of your signature page. You can type in, the chairperson can type in their name if they want, or you can just print it with those blank and let the judge and the chair sign it later. This box is for who gets copies of it. At the bottom, you used to on your yellow recommendation, you would circle the different parties that need a copy of the case. That's what this is meant for. So children's attorney, yes, DHS, parents' attorneys, district attorney. Oh, there was a CASA in this case, so let's make sure CASA gets a copy. Right, and you click create. So now let me show you on the sheet here. So here list all the different cases. We could sort by review of. So this is all Canadian County cases. And look, there were, no, these are all cases. So let's sort by board. And I'm going to do Canadian. That's spelled. Oh my gosh. So there's all the Canadian ones. So now I've got those by alphabetical order. I could also look at, next review date, or when the last review was. So I wanted to find out, okay, last review. So the last review was the Smith case that I just did on 6/12. Before that, the last one was in November. It looked like in November there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cases that were reviewed. And the next review date, I could certainly mark by that. Now, if you do like want to add, or you need to, let's look at this. We want to look at the Smith case. So we're going to click on it, and I could print it, click on this print button, click on full screen if I want. And there it is. See, when you enter when the birth date was, it'll automatically tell you, okay, that kid's John Doe's 5 years old and Jane Doe's 2 years old. They're both in therapeutic foster care. One's been out of the home 49 months and one's been out 23 months. They're not ICWA. There's the recommendation. There's the information at the top. Really pretty simple. Now let's say you wanted to make an edit. Well, you click on that again and just click edit review because, oh, I did the, I got their birth date wrong. So I'll go over here to the children and I'll change the birth date or something like that. Then you just click next, 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 and then update, and you're done. So you only click edit when you're making a fix on a on one that you've entered. If you're actually adding a case, so let's say the Smith case comes up. It's been 6 months. We're looking at the Smith case again. Click on add review. It's going to auto-populate everything already. So we know the JD number is the same, KK number is the same, review of is the same, judge is the same. Well, we're going to type in a new review date because we are going to have another review date. Maybe the reviewer changed. Maybe instead of me, someone else did it this time. Oh, you know who Dad's attorney is now, so you went ahead and write that information. And then you write your recommendation. Click add. Now look, the Smith case has two cases in it. So you can click on that little arrow, and you can pick which one you're going to look at. Typically not going to be on the same date, so you can tell them apart a little bit. What else? Other actions. You can, I just downloaded it, so I could print it that way. So just click print, and print to a printer somewhere. So let's talk about that real quick. So that's how you enter it in. Pretty straightforward. Next time you do the review, that information is already going to be populated there. So those are the two recommendations. There we go. So you can also, and I can help with this as well. I don't want to get in too much because of these cases here. Matter of fact, I'll stop sharing the screen. So you can also, once you have a bunch of cases, we can sort by when the next review date is. I kind of talked about that earlier. You can do all kinds of neat tricks to kind of manage your caseload. So that's all there is to it. So once you get your username and password, you log in, you're only going to see your counties. Now, we've also been, let me show again. When we look at a review, so okay, so let's look at the review. You look at that little blue square, it says open right now. We've been asking chairs to review the cases. They log in, and when you log in, you can see everybody's recommendation. So one of your other PARB members say they entered a recommendation either today at your meeting or maybe last month at the meeting. When you log in, you see everybody's recommendation. So you could technically go in and edit their recommendation. I know you wouldn't want to, But to kind of keep that from accidentally happening, and to kind of mark a recommendation as finished, we would like the chair to go ahead and lock the recommendation. So as chair, part of your responsibility is to look at all the recommendations, make sure they, everything's spelled correctly, that you're not going to say something that offends the judge or something like that. Once you're done making any edits, then you click lock. And only the chair has the authority to lock and unlock cases. Well, I do too, because I'm the admin. But that's kind of what that's for. You can certainly print, turn in cases that aren't locked. Not a big deal. That's kind of just another layer of control. Just to try to make sure people don't stumble around. So that's it in a nutshell. As far as, so this is an online database, meaning it's on the web, it's on a website, it's not on your computer. So if you're using a tablet or a laptop, even some people have tried to use their phone some, and that actually works. It's hard to type in, but it can be done. That information is not on your device, it's in the cloud, which is good for that confidential information. Now, if you save it to your computer, then, which I would not recommend you do, then it is on your device, and you should delete that once you've printed it or whatever. To have access to it, you have to have Wi-Fi. Most boards meet in courthouses. A lot of courthouses have very thick walls and not very good Wi-Fi. I have a hotspot on my phone as a way to get Wi-Fi. Other people have done other things. I'll visit with your judge. Most everybody at this point is using the database, so they figured it out at some. So just ask your chair on what they do for Wi-Fi. And then printing is also a bit of a challenge, because even though we're going through using the database to enter cases, like I said, you could take a laptop to the meeting, and a lot of PARB members do this. Take a laptop to the meeting, type in your information at the meeting, print at the meeting, or email it, or send it, or your chair is going to print, somehow print. And you never pick up a pen and paper. You never fill out anything like this. It all went straight in the computer, and you saved it and printed it. Some people don't take the computer to a meeting, and they only fill out the yellow forms, and then they hand it to somebody else that's going to take it home and enter on the computer there. Whatever works for your group. But whenever the recommendation is turned in, it has to be a hard copy. So you could turn in your handwritten one, even though you enter it in the database. I mean, a few counties we have had to do that. I would prefer that they're printed and turned in, but you do have to have someone who lets you print. And that someone has to have yellow paper, which I can certainly get for you if you don't have it. But please work that out with your board and your chair. And if you are having a hard time figuring that out, let me know. We'll figure it out. But you do have to have Wi-Fi. You do have to be able to print somewhere. Even if you print the recommendations at home and then take them to the courthouse, and then we do that too. So that is it in a nutshell. Again, reach out to any PARB staff or your chair for any assistance. And hope you like the database, and we'll see you next time.